Hello everyone, I just wanted to give you guys a brief update on the Menendez Brothers resentencing hearing that began today. So in the courtroom, or virtually present as the Menendez Brothers resentencing hearing begins today, which is April 17, 2025. Key attendees is the Judge Michael Jessic, which will preside over today's hearing, which is being attended by Eric and Lyle Menendez virtually via video, linked from their San Diego prison. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman had spoke, and his deputy, Habian Balian, will argue for maintaining the brothers' life sentences. Defense counsel, led by Mark Garagos, will press for reduced terms. At least 10 members of the Menendez family, including the cousin Anna Maria, are slated to testify today, along with a prison expert and a former inmate. There were members of the public that were permitted to be in, but they were basically only in based on their numbers that were being drawn. So you had to get a number and be drawn in order to be able to attend the inside hearing, and it was very limited. District Attorney Nathan Hochman is seated in the front row behind his prosecutors, opposing any reduction in the brothers' life sentences. Deputy District Attorney, I know I'm going to say this wrong, but is Habib Balan, presented the prosecution's case, walking the court through the 1989 crime scene. The defense team, which is Mark Garagos being the lead defense, the brothers, their lead attorney, is in court with the defense team, arguing for a resentencing under California's youthful offender law. So, and of course, Eric and Lyle, they are virtual. So, they are in prison blue uniforms from the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, and they are seated side by side in the virtual video. They will participate via video link throughout the proceedings. The family members and witnesses' testimony will be potentially heard today. I know that they are expected to, and they are ready to take the stand at the hearing, demonstrating unified support for resentencing for the Menendez brothers. So, the Anna Maria, the brother's cousin, who along with other family members has publicly expressed forgiveness and their pride for the brothers. Now, an expert witness, a prison expert, and former inmate have also been called to testify on the brothers' rehabilitation over 35 years behind bars. Something to consider is a lot of people are kind of resentful of this, but if we really go by the law, okay, that is what it's about, is rehabilitation. So if they've got a clean record, their reassessment's good, then by all means, they have earned that right, according to the law, to rehabilitate into society. And that is the ultimate goal in the end for these individuals who are in prison for the most part. In keeping with court policy, members of the public were admitted by their lottery to observe the hearing in person. They attended at the Van Nuys Courthouse. Reporters from outlets, NBC, Los Angeles, all of them have attended. They are covering the hearing. This resentencing hearing, which is expected to be from today and tomorrow, will determine if the Menendez brothers sentenced to life without parole in the 1996 for the 1989 murders or unaliving of their parents should instead receive 50 years to life. If they receive that, that makes them immediately eligible for parole under California's youthful offender law. And of course, today and tomorrow, court will resume at 9:30 a.m. So that's something to keep in touch with. We did go brief live today, but as you can tell, they have not made any updates or changes. So, we have other obligations and cases to cover. So, but for the most part, we will be going live briefly again tomorrow to cover some of that, in addition to answering questions and what have you for you guys that are in the chat. I will be answering those questions and letting you guys kind of know what's going on during that hearing period.
Last 30 years, and then at that point, if they do it unequivocally and sincerely, and they convince the court, because ultimately the court has to make the decision here, then they can then say to the court, we have come clean, we have been rehabilitated, we no longer constitute a risk of danger to society. But until that happens,
for lack of a better term, how the DA has treated this case. By the way, Marcy's Law, which is a constitutional law in the state of California, requires certain things of prosecutors and duties for victims. I don't know why, in this case, this particular DA, because it certainly was not the last DA, but this particular DA has decided that he's got some other interest to vindicate that has nothing to do.
It's the end of the day for the resentencing hearing, and the judge has confirmed the hearing will move forward. It's been confirmed that late Wednesday, Los Angeles County prosecutors filed a motion requesting a postponement, explaining that they had insufficient time to examine the State Parole Board's comprehensive risk assessment report. Earlier this year, Governor Newsom asked the Parole Board to prepare this evaluation while weighing whether to grant clemency to Eric and Lyle Menendez for the 1989 killings of their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez. The brothers were found guilty of first-degree murder with special circumstances in 1995 and received life sentences without the possibility of parole. Their case was reopened last year after then LA County District Attorney George Gascon moved to make them eligible for parole under California law on the grounds that they were under 26 at the time the murders took place. In a 3-page memo, prosecutors appointed by Gascon highlighted the brothers' involvement in developing prison rehabilitation programs, their low-risk ratings by correctional officials, and potential new evidence of their father's alleged abuse as factors supporting their release. Current District Attorney Nathan Hochman, however, has strongly opposed their parole eligibility, arguing that the brothers have not taken responsibility for their actions. Hochman noted that his office only received the Parole Board's draft report on Tuesday and declined to discuss its substance, stating only that they wished to ensure Judge Michael Jeske had every relevant document before making a decision. Newsom's office countered that the report remains incomplete and will not be finalized until June. We notified Judge Jeske of the report's status, clarified that it is not a standalone risk assessment, and offered to share it upon request, the governor's spokesperson said, describing the document as an initial draft. Outside the courthouse Thursday morning, the Menendez brothers' attorney, Mark Garagos, dismissed Hochman's motion as a last-ditch effort. "If I were desperate and frightened of the truth, I'd do the same," Garagos remarked. Moments later, Hochman held a brief news conference, after which Judge Jeske entered the courtroom. There, Garagos screened footage of Hochman's remarks, contending that the district attorney implied negative findings in the parole board's report, a report Garagos said he had not yet seen. Jeske informed Garagos that he had confirmed with the governor's office that the report was available to the defense. "I need clarification from the governor's office about what they're doing here," the judge said. "This is absurd." Garagos also questioned the admissibility of the draft, arguing that it was produced for parole proceedings and should not influence a resentencing hearing that will only determine the brothers' eligibility for parole, not their actual release. Deputy District Attorney Habib Balian, who has reviewed the document, urged the court to consider it before ruling. Jeske indicated that he would not rule immediately, but would issue a written decision after both sides finish presenting evidence, likely later this week or early next week. Should Jeske admit the report, Garagos said he would seek a continuance and might file to disqualify the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office from the case, though he did not specify formal grounds for recusal. "These reports have nothing to do with resentencing," Garagos asserted, showing courtroom visuals of internal emails stating they are not to be used in hearings. Nearly 24 relatives of the Menendez brothers have formed the Justice for Eric and Lyle Coalition to advocate for their release. The only family member who opposed clemency died earlier this year. If the hearing proceeds as scheduled, Garagos plans to call several family members, a former inmate mentored by the brothers, and a correctional supervisor who praised one brother's conduct. It remains unclear whether Eric or Lyle Menendez will testify.
Hochman said his office has not yet decided whether to present witnesses. Hochman characterized his office's stance on resentencing, not as a flat denial, but as a not yet. He argued that by continuing to minimize their crimes, the brothers have failed to meet the state Supreme Court's standards for rehabilitation. If resentenced, the Menendez brothers could face a parole hearing this year. Should Judge Jeske deny their petition, they would still have two avenues for release: a new trial motion based on a